Another aspect of writing is producing screenplays for movies. And our next guest is not only a talented screenwriter, but she's also helping others who aspire to write a story for the big screen. Her name is Jaclyn Whitt. Jaclyn is an award-winning screenwriter, the education coordinator and co-founder with her husband Jeffrey of the Faith and Family Filmmakers Association. She and Jeffrey mentor emerging screenwriters to successfully write screenplays, win awards, and pitch to producers. And some of their mentees have gone on to win awards and secure funding and grants for their project. Jaclyn is also the author of the internationally best-selling book, In the Beginning, Middle, and End, a screenwriter's observations of the life, character, and God. Jaclyn, that's a lot. Welcome to Pop Talk. I'm
You're
just
telling
excited. We're so glad to have you here with us at NRB. Wow. We just want to know about all of your great work and what a difference it's making in the kingdom. We just want to brag on you in this show and just give all glory to God. How did you first start getting into screenwriting? We want to know about that.
Actually, writing was something that I did for myself. It was therapeutic. You know how sometimes there's situations in life when you need to get closure, but you can't because maybe the person's gone away, or maybe it's just an unhealthy situation. And so that's where I would write. I would create the script with the scenario, and I'd have the characters go through whatever they needed to go through to bring about the closure. And so I didn't even write, like for years, I didn't write full stories. I would write segments because that's all I needed to get out of it. And then when I was in my early 20s, I had an idea, and that's when I wrote my first screenplay all the way, like a full feature screenplay. And then since then, I just continued writing. But again, for at least a decade, it was still about just the closure that I needed. It was therapeutic for me.
Yes.
Well, I love it that you're a screenwriter, and I'm a writer, okay? I've been writing all my life, but I've never done screenplays. But this has kind of come up in my life lately, this late age. and so I took your screenwriting boot camp, and I learned so much in that boot camp, and I recommend it for anyone who's listening right now. And so it's so encouraging. You really are an encourager. You said to me, we had a Zoom call, and you said, Lisa, you're a writer. You can do screenplays. You can do it, because I'm not a fiction writer. I'm a nonfiction writer. So why do you enjoy helping others like you do? Why do you have a heart for the struggling screenwriter, the person who wants to do this?
You know, I think that creatives are visionaries, right? And I also have a gift of teaching, and I think that God has allowed me this opportunity where I can not only understand what someone's vision is, I can teach them how to draw that out and put it on the page. Like visionaries, we see things before they even exist, right? That's kind of our job, and then we make it happen. And so, yeah, it's one of the gifts that God has given me, so I need to use it, right?
Definitely. And you're doing it.
Yeah.
You are so talented. So on top of all the screenwriting, you also co-host a podcast with your husband, Jeffrey, called Faith and Family Filmmakers Podcast. So what all do you talk about in that podcast, and how does this benefit people who desire to write a screenplay?
Yeah, our whole business, everything we do with the podcast and all of that is about equipping the faith-based community that is working in film. So on our podcast, we interview people who are working either as a writer, director, producer, actor. They could hold the boom. It doesn't matter if they're involved in the film industry and they have something that they can share about God moving in their situation, or even sharing advice of how they got to where they are, and understanding how do you get successful, like you want to learn from the best, right? So that's who we interview, and our audience are the people who want to learn from them.
That's awesome. If somebody's watching right now, Jaclyn, I was just sitting here thinking, if they have a movie idea, what are some of the basic things that you are wanting to see from them, and just putting the points together? Tell us about that. How do you put a screenplay together? In 30 seconds or less. Go.
Right.
Get your pen and paper out now.
Everyone, get your pen
Okay,
and paper.
most important thing to know is that film is visual. So you have to understand, is your story a visual story? If not, you have to figure out how to make it visual or write a book. Not all stories are told on film.
Yeah, I would like to do a screen. My life is kind of interesting, and I have a very, just an interesting story, I think. And I've thought about writing a screenplay about my life, and my husband is already saying, who's going to play me? He's like suggesting actors on who would play him. I said, I haven't even started this thing. So I have combed your website. I've become a fan, and I look to see what all you offer and where I can jump in, because this is something that's really playing on my mind. And so you do so many things. You have classes, and you do. I just went to your networking group. That was so much fun. We went into breakout rooms. We met people we'd never met before, and got to find out about them. Some of them are actresses. Some were screenwriters. Some were actors. They are producers. And so yeah, it was just, I loved it. I want to do it again. But you've also written some books, and this one's called In the Beginning, Middle, and End. And so could you talk about the books that you've written and what you're trying to get across to people?
Absolutely. That book was definitely an act of obedience. I never thought I'd write a book. I love screenplays, but I learned a lot. Anytime that you pursue to become an expert at something, you learn a lot along the way. And what I discovered is that as an author, I am basically the God of the universe that I'm creating. And so I learned a lot of how God creates stories in our lives. And so what I did was I wrote this book of all of the things that I discovered that as an author, I can relate to God, or I can understand some of the things that he does, some of his writing techniques in our lives. So the book really does get into both sides, where I do talk about screenwriting techniques, but I also flip it to say, okay, now God is also doing this in your life.
So here's the thing I want to say real quick is, there's a verse that I love. It's 1 Thessalonians 5:24, and it says, the one who calls you is faithful, and he will do it. So if you're called to screenwriting, if you're called to write a book like what you wrote, you just have to sit in his presence, and he's going to download the material. I've had that happen so many times, especially with our devotionals, and devotions that we write for our website. And so I know that for myself, if I'm supposed to write a screenplay, he's going to show me how to do it.
Absolutely, you can do it.
Yes, I love that. And later this year, you're hosting a writer's retreat in Mexico. I want to go. Where you live, and can you tell everyone about that retreat?
Yeah, so my husband and I left Canada to move to Mexico so that we could do all of the things that we're doing, and we decided we wanted to invite people to our little town, because we don't live near the tourism areas. We are just in this tiny little town, but it's beautiful in the jungle of Mexico. And so we thought, okay, I've got this method. I've kind of got my method down to a bit of a science, so I can help people write their first draft while they come and have an adventure with us in small town, real life Mexico. Not the tourism areas where you're going to have probably a lot of mix of North American culture in there, but the heart of Mexico. And it's totally safe where we live. We always feel safe.
That's good.
That sounds like a fun retreat, girls. Go down there. I think that could be a movie too.
Pearl Girls.
The Writers' Retreat in Mexico. I think we should do a screenplay about that. I actually just saw a movie kind of like that, where they had a writing retreat, and there was a love story in it and all that kind of stuff. Two people met. Anyway, we'll get into that later, but we're just so happy that you're on Pop Talk, Jaclyn. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to be combing all your materials to see what I can get out of your book, and see if what it can do to help me. I know it will. The book again is called In the Beginning, Middle, and End: A Screenwriter's Observations of Life, Character, and God. And so if you think you might want to be a screenwriter, or you just want to get involved in this community, you can go to the Faith and Family Filmmakers Association website. That's FAFF association.com. I'm going to say it again. F as in Frank, FAFF association.com. OvercomersTV.Live.com.
And we'd love for you to reach out to us here at Pearls of Promise Ministries. You can email us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. Like us on Facebook at Pearls of Promise Ministries, on X at Pop Talk Media, or on Instagram at Pop_Ministries. And all of our past shows and award-winning documentaries are on our YouTube channel at Pearls of Promise Ministries.
So that is Pop Talk for today. We're just ordinary girls
Who God turned into pearls. Have a wonderful week.
Horizon Media Studios and Lindell TV sending out a special thank you and blessings to everyone who came by to say hello and visit with us at booth 911 during NRB 2025. Keep in touch, and we hope to connect with you again in the coming year.